Hi, Mithos here, and welcome to Time Chunk, where I restrict my access to a RuneScape game chunk for 8 hours. If I pass all of its objectives within this time, I unlock the chunk permanently. If I fail, I lose access to it. No time to waste, the clock is running, let's go. Hi everyone. First of all, thank you for all the support and positive comments on my first video. There are some interesting ideas I will reflect on in the future. In the last episode we failed to complete the Lumbridge chunk tasks, but we managed to roll in the desert and complete a couple of chunks there. This is how the chunk map currently looks like. I'll briefly go over each rollable chunk. Chunk 1, the Grid mine, triggers a 90 mining grind because of a shooting star, and I only have a bronze pickaxe. That's gonna be fun. Also, because there are eddy rocks there and I have access to a furnace, I'll need 70 smithing. This chunk is impossible for sure, but at least has new content and allows me to train 2 new skills. Chunk 2, Emir's Arena, is not so great. It will trigger a 58 fletching grind and my best fletching method is around 3.5k per hour. The chunk itself has nothing new to offer either. Chunk 3 has a 1 in 5000 curved bone grind from giants, so that will be challenging as well. There aren't any giant foundry tasks because I formally don't meet the requirement with my current chunks, though I can actually do it because I do have all the items. Chunk 4 has Shanty Store and a bank. It has no interesting task, but it will allow me to roll deeper into the desert. And chunk 5 is currently just corner content. I can only access the small desert strip. Anyway, let's roll. And it's going to be Grid mine. Okay, that seems like a fun chunk. The main attraction here, as in the chunk name, is the mine. Other than that, there's a couple of scorpions that don't drop anything and an imp spawn. Here is a list of the tasks. The imp triggers a 58 cooking grind because it drops a pot of flour that can be made into a pita bread. So I immediately started to train mining. With a bronze pickaxe it seemed incredibly slow and my first inventory took like 5 minutes. I'm not an expert in game mechanics, but I'll quickly break down how I understand mining to work. It consists of 2 components. There's the pickaxe, which determines when or how often you can get an ore. With a bronze pickaxe this is once every 8 ticks or 4.8 seconds. Then, your mining level determines the success rate of getting that ore. At level 12 mining, for example, you would have a 50% chance of getting a copper ore. So at level 12 mining with a bronze pickaxe, I would have 50% every 4.8 seconds, or on average get a copper or tin ore every 9.6 seconds. Getting an adamant pickaxe, which rolls every 4 ticks, would halve this time. Similarly, getting 61 mining, which is a 100% copper ore success rate, would also halve the mining time. So both are important, though I am stuck with a bronze pickaxe. I first banked enough tin and copper for 15 smithing, and then also banked the first 500 iron ore. However, I will likely train smithing in the future with buyable bronze bars from Sante's Pass or Giant's Foundry, and since banking took quite some time, I decided to fully focus on training mining instead. Now I've never really done this before, but there's a method called tick manipulation. You essentially do and cancel a different task, which resets the tick cooldown of rolling a resource. So for me, instead of waiting 8 ticks, this could be shorter. I believe, if done right, it also double rolls, doubling the chances of success, though I have no idea how this actually works and I could not really find much on it. If anyone can explain this to me, please let me know. Anyway, people typically do tick manipulation with T-clogs or herbs and pestle and mortar, which has a 3 tick cycle instead of an 8 tick. However, I have access to neither of those. Now I saw a video on Reddit with someone doing it with regular logs and a tinderbox, so I tried that first. It seemed to work roughly half of the time, which was very satisfying, but I also failed quite a bit, which was really frustrating. To be honest, I had no idea what I was doing or what I was doing wrong, and there was not really a lot of improvement either. Later I tried tick manipulation with regular logs. This is less ideal than T-clogs since you have to click through a menu every time. I had the same issue here though. Sometimes it seemed to work, other times not, and I did not really have any idea why that was the case. I also regularly fletched my logs by accident, needing me to get new ones out of the bank. Still, I just kept trying this for the entire chunk. It seemed to get a little bit better, especially around the 3 iron rocks in the mine. No idea if I actually got better at it, or if it's just because I got a higher mining level and the success rate was higher at this point. All the guys that I looked up just show how to do it and don't mention what can go wrong. I have no idea whether something can go wrong. Anyway, I'm a bit out of my depth here, so if anyone knows how this exactly works, let me know. Regardless, I did get quite some mining levels, and even with failing regularly, using tick manipulation was certainly a lot faster than mining without it. I also killed a lot of imps in between mining since I needed to get that pot of flour for making pita bread. It took me almost 100 kills, but I did manage to get it eventually. Other than that, I got one doable beginner clue from mining. Overall, I did really enjoy trying to learn new stuff, and I did not expect that so fast into this account after years of playing the game normally. In sum, I did get over 60 levels and over 130k experience. It's a pretty good account progress here. Alright, back we are. Not much has changed on the chunk map. I don't want to roll 1 since there's nothing to do here, and my best fletching XP is around 3.7k an hour. Number 2 has some nice smithing training and a curved bone grind, and number 3 and 4 don't have anything interesting, but will expand the map in the future. Anyway, let's go. Where will I spend the next 8 hours? Oh, Amir's Arena. Not good. Pretty much the worst one. Oh well, we'll see how far we can get. So I quickly went to check out the arena, but there's indeed nothing besides a few coin spawns and a bronze axe spawn. Time to start training fletching then. So the only way to train fletching is by using logs from the 5 trees just outside the gate in Lumbridge. I switch worlds until I get 25 logs, fletch them into unstrung longbows giving me 10 XP each, and then sell them to the general store. I could drop them instead, but since I am fletching bows on my way to the store, I only lose a few seconds running back. It gives me some decent cash, and given that my current money making methods suck, this is quite useful. Plus I can check the farming patch and do a bit of raking in between. Again, this method is around 3.7k fletching XP per hour, so pretty bad. After around 4 hours I made over 20k gold, and I decided it was time for a change. I wanted to see how many arrow shafts I could make and what XP rates that would give. Arrow shafts give only half the XP per log, so are not great. However, a rollable chunk to the south has a store with feathers and bronze bars. If we would also get access to an anvil, this would allow me to make bronze arrows, and making those will be far greater XP per hour. With around 2.5k XP per hour for just the arrow shafts, this was horrible XP for now, but possibly better for the future. Anyway, there's not much for me to report here. The world switching also stopped me from getting any random events. The only upside is that regular trees have a 1 in 400 chance to drop a beginner clue last, but unfortunately I did not get any doable step. Overall, I did get a few woodcutting and fletching levels, but did not even reach 20% of the XP needed to finish this single chunk task. Let's forget about this chunk for now and quickly roll a new one. And back to the chunk map we go. Chunk 1 has the most content, but chunk 2 and 3 can actually be completed. So let's roll. And the next chunk is... Shanty's Pass. Not a bad roll. It has a bank and a store with some interesting items. For most I can now buy feathers, bronze bars and ropes. All pretty useful. These are the tasks for this chunk. It is entering the desert in desert ropes, cutting a cactus and starting tourist trap. I completed all of these within the first 10 minutes. So, chunk completed. A welcome change after the first 2 chunks this episode. I bought some feathers but quickly realized that this was actually quite expensive, and there was no way I could feather all of my arrow shafts. I did make over 5k headless arrows. This got me high enough fletching to make a willow shield, for which I still had the logs in the bank. Now I first wanted to finish getting 58 cooking, so I could make that pita bread whenever I wore an imp spawn again. I spent the first 2 hours of the chunk doing exactly that. I was only a couple of levels off, so it was pretty quick. And the experience for cooking per hour is quite decent. So how to spend the remaining 6 hours of the chunk? I feel there's 2 main ways to progress the account. The first is to continue training fletching. However, I just did that for 8 hours and I don't have the money to buy feathers. I also have no access to good money makers to easily get them. The second way is to train my combat skills. There's quite some chunks around me that require combat. Lumbridge with the 99 defense cape, Giants for the curve bone drop, and the Kelphite Queen chunk has also become rollable now. Now I don't think I will actually stand a chance against the Kelphite Queen anytime soon, but I might as well work towards that goal. So I decided to go the second route and spend the remaining time killing Alkarid warriors. They seem to be the best way to train combat at the moment. They don't hit too hard and they spawn relatively close to each other. It was also nice to not constantly have to hop worlds, which also meant I was able to get some random events. I first got to 42 strength, allowing me to hit 7s, and then trained my attack to 40. My defense got to level 39 when I ran out of time. At this moment I have 2 completable beginner and 1 easy clue. But I also have 1 more beginner and easy clue in adjacent chunks. So this is my progress in the last 8 hours. Mostly a lot of combat levels and experience. Overall not bad at all. And back again to the chunk map, where we have gained access to a few new rollable chunks actually. So chunk 2 is a free chunk, though it does have a bow spawn allowing me to train ranged. Chunk 3 continues tourist trap. Because I can't train mining here, it triggers a 90 mining grind for the shooting star again though. Chunk 4 has the Calphite Queen. I am not ready for this yet. Low combat stats, no anti-poison, no protection prayers, not a lot of good food, and I don't have access to range of magic either, so I can't safe spot anything. Some of the other Calphite monsters have armor upgrades, which can be nice, but I prefer to roll this chunk later rather than sooner. Chunk 6, Lumbridge, also becomes rollable again, after being locked for 5 rolls already. Okay, no time to waste, let's see what we get next. And the next chunk is Elite North Bridge. I don't think there's a lot to do, but let's check it out. There's 2 very easy chunk tasks here, obtaining a short bow and a bronze arrow, both which are drops in the chunk. I did already have limited access to bronze arrows from men and Alkreed warriors, both at a rate of 1 in 42. However, there are 3 bronze spawns close to each other here. With some world hopping I can probably get a decent amount, but given that I might get access to better sources later, I don't plan to do that now. Anyway, both tasks completed within the first couple of minutes, so another completed chunk that can be added to the map. Nice. Of course, I wanted to take my new bow out for a spin and immediately started to train ranged. I had over 300 arrows saved and used most of these on men to train my range to 25, which took around an hour and a half. The leather chaps I got from a clue earlier felt helpful since I barely missed even at lower levels. Next, I wanted to determine how good my best current mine maker was. I'm quite sure this is pickpocketing Alkreed warriors. There is no strong need to train thieving at the moment, though higher levels are always nice for the future. With around a 50% success rate, this felt quite slow however, since being stunned takes 5 seconds. Still, I managed to get from 30 to 40 thieving in around 2 hours. I got around 13k thieving experience per hour and made around 9k gold per hour. Not great, but at least we established a solid baseline. For the remaining 4.5 hours, I went back to training my combat on Alkreed warriors. Training combat is still one of the most useful things to do when looking at the chunks around me. I might also get lucky with doable clue scrolls and get a nice casket reward. With around 13k combat experience per hour, levels did feel a lot slower after 40. But oh well, that's how RuneScape works. These are the levels at the end of this chunk. Again, mostly gained some combat levels, now both ranged and melee. Hopefully this will help a lot in the future chunks to come. And time's up. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to stay updated on my progress, leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions or tips, leave them in the comments below. Have a nice day and see you next time.